long getting started, guys. For some reason, I'm having to use my phone, which was not the plan. For some reason, my laptop was not recognizing my webcam, so having to go with the flow and go to plan B. So on my phone, which is just fine. I mean, thankfully it has this vertical live streaming now. So we're still going to do the video. If anyone was waiting at 3 p.m., I sincerely apologize for not being on time, but we will still have a full video. I'm going to try to keep this at no more than an hour to discuss my Wealth Magic experience and how it has evolved 4 years after performing the ritual for the first time. So I do want to discern or make the difference, first of all, that it's been 4 years since I first did the ritual. I began round 1 in February of 2019 and then ended it in September of 2019, actually on September 19th, 2019. So I thought the 9/19/19 was kind of a unique date. And then round 2, I did 2 years later. I began that in April 2021, and that one took me a lot longer to finish, just simply because of life circumstances and my timing. So I finished that one in March of 2022, early March of 2022. And so what I haven't made a video on, and what I haven't discussed either, is that I also, in addition to doing 2 full rounds of Wealth Magic, last year in March of 2023, I performed the 7th ritual to Clowneck just by itself, that ritual alone for the whole 22 days, and just left it at that, because I had had some other friends or acquaintances who had mentioned that that's all they had done out of the Wealth Magic book, so I wanted to give it a shot and sort of build a rapport with Clowneck too. So, one second, let me grab the book. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, then maybe watch the other videos first too. This is the book, Wealth Magic. It is a grimoire written by Damon Brand from the Gallery of Magic. And we have a whole podcast on it that's on my channel. I have other videos. I have videos of year 1, year 2, year 3, and this will be year 4 results. So technically, my year 4 review was last year, or my, not the review, but my 4th year after performing it the first time was last year, but I didn't make a video because there were just a lot of life circumstances and stuff going on. And so this will be 4 years later, technically last year. So the results are about the same compared to where I was last year too. So since I'm on my phone, I'm going to have to be looking like really close at the screen sometimes. I've had my computer already and it didn't work, so that's fine. So I will link in the description box below this video the other videos if anyone is interested in going in order of watching how the results have evolved in the previous years too. It is interesting for me to even go back and watch. I did go back and kind of go through some of the other ones like year 3 and just see how things have even evolved since then. I'm not going to sit here and recap every result from every year. I'm just going to basically summarize where I was before starting Wealth Magic completely, and then go into last year, or the year 3 changes, like what happened in year 3, and then how things have evolved since then into year 4. And now keep in mind, this is 4 years since my first time doing Wealth Magic, but I did it 2 years later and ended that in 2022. So it's about 2 years since the second round and 1 year since just doing Clowneck's ritual, which I believe did have results because it was working with Clowneck, and Clowneck is a powerful spirit to work with. Another good book, which is not related to Wealth Magic, but I will just mention Clowneck Money Magic by Amara Yasmin, which I also just recently made a video on. If anyone is interested in working with Clowneck one-on-one, that is an excellent book to get started on with that spirit. So, I will recap my situation before Wealth Magic, before I ever started Wealth Magic or any sort of magic. It was 2018, so the end of 2018 was when I got introduced to the Magical Cash book. And then I didn't start Wealth Magic until the beginning of 2019. And at that time, I was living in a less than, I was renting a room in a house from these like strangers, and we didn't really get along, and I was working in a restaurant. I didn't have a car. I hadn't had a car for 4 years. And living in Texas, Texas is a big state where you need a car. So I was Ubering a lot. I was very dependent on other people to get me places, you know. And I didn't really have any direction. I was an employee rather than being self-employed, so I'll talk about the changes too. I was teaching piano still, but I was working as an employee in a studio. And I really was kind of insecure. I wasn't like happy in life, and the reason why I got into Wealth Magic or decided to do Wealth Magic was because I didn't have anything to lose. I was like, yeah, things could get worse, but hopefully this book will allow things and help things to get better. And I was interested in magic, and my trusted friend Arjuna had also done this book, and since I trusted him, that made it easier for me to be willing to do the magic in the first place, because I had never experienced anything like it before. So that was where I was in 2018, before starting Wealth Magic for the first time. So now, how things evolved into year 3, which was the last video I made in 2022. So when I made the year 3 video, it was 6 months after I had finished the second round. So 3 years after the first round, 6 months after the second round. And I hadn't done the ritual Declonic by itself yet. But in the year 3, so from year 1 to year 3, I went from dependent on people and things to independence. I had my own apartment. I had a car. I was able to get to and from places. I went from being an employee to being in a management position as, yes, still an employee at the job I was at, but I wasn't working in a restaurant anymore at that time. And I was self-employed with my piano lessons. I went from working for the studio, which during COVID we took a pay cut and I needed to leave, so I did, and I started to just get independent students and teach privately. And so I was self-employed and in a management position. Another thing that I had mentioned was my quality of friends had shifted. It deepened the connections of old friendships, and I found that my newer friendships that I was attracting into my life were more aligned with my goals and values and where I was wanting to go. You know, those friends that help you on your path rather than hold us back. I went from having no direction, not knowing what I wanted to do in life, to having goals, to knowing what I wanted to do, but feeling aligned with my purpose. I had a bunch of creative ideas, and I had not, at that time, beginning Wealth Magic, put many of them into application. It was just kind of that saying, like, talkers ain't doers and doers ain't talkers. At that time, I was a talker. And by year 3, I was putting those ideas, I was applying those ideas. So I had started writing my book. And I had already had my YouTube channel, but I was doing more with my YouTube channel and just other creative ideas too that had just been ideas for so long. I went from being unmotivated with the lack of direction to finding a new sense of inner confidence and authentic power and belief in myself with doing this magic. I saw how the results were manifesting and how it was sort of alchemizing me internally too, and changing my belief in wealth. My whole abundance mindset shifted. That's another big thing, is over these years, I had no definition of wealth. I had no idea what wealth was other than it meant you were rich before I started Wealth Magic. And Of course, when I started the book, everybody wants to just be rich fast, but if you read the book and really understand the book, that's not what it's about. It's about creating a life of wealth, and wealth is not just defined as monetary gain, right? It's not just defined as being rich. There is abundance in all forms, which is why I'm also speaking on like the quality of friendships in my life and how the directions have shifted, those are all abundance of things too. Another thing for to speak on the financial gain a little bit was that from year one, I had like no credit. I didn't have any savings. I was just living paycheck to paycheck. And by year three last year, or I guess 2022 now, when I made the year three video, I had a credit card. I was building credit. I had savings. I was able to, get some financial standing, which you need in capital America. And I was becoming more financially literate, which is important. Understanding how money works. I took an interest in learning, like reading financial books. I thought I had it over there, but I don't. But one being Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which the author's name is escaping me right now, but I can also link that in there. And just other books that teach people how to handle money. That became an interest of mine because I was never taught that in school. I mean, I just learned kind of what my parents did, and maybe my parents weren't the best at handling their finances my whole life. And so I had no financial literacy. I didn't know how to make my money work for me. And so over these years, that has still evolved and is still evolving. I mean, I'm still not like completely financially literate, and I may never be completely financially literate, but I know so much more now than I ever knew back then. And I'm still learning. I still have this curiosity to manage my money and to budget and to be smart with my money. And I really think that the abundance mindset, the wealth mindset, is probably the best result that comes from doing this book, because it shattered and still shatters. I mean, I still find myself having to if I get into doubts or fears of lack or scarcity, remind myself of the abundance around me. And I've even lately looked back and thought, like 5 years ago to where I am now, that's where I wanted to be, which I'll get to in just a second. But the abundance mindset is something that lasts for a lifetime, and it's never too late to learn. Of course, like some people who are older might think, oh, well, I wish I had known this when I was younger, but hey, even if you're doing this at an older age, which I'm 29, so, several people are doing this that are older than me, and age doesn't matter, I mean, it's never too late to learn. And yeah, and it has shattered old belief systems related to money, and I just have a completely new perspective on money and on finances. So I will get into how, what changes there have been since doing the year 3 video, which, like I said, was in September of 2022. So technically these changes started to manifest last year, all of 2023, and are finally now, I guess, within getting into 2024, being settled into, so to speak. So 4 years later, which again I will state, this is 4 years after doing it the first time, 2 years after doing it the second time, and now we are a year later after me doing just Clown X Ritual last March for the 22 days, just solely focusing on working with Clown X. So I did that just to have a little bit more boost, like a little more momentum. I was also there were a lot of changes going on in my life and a lot of goals that I wanted to achieve, and I had heard that that was a good ritual to do just on your own, and I wanted to work with just Clown X, and this was before Clown X Money Magic came out, that book, so it was the only way that I knew how to work with Clown X. And I did experience results and financial gain and was able to meet these goals that I set for myself. So the main major change that has taken place just in the last year was that I moved across the country. I moved to a new state in the United States, and that had been a goal of mine ever since my early 20s, really. Like ever since I was like 20 or 21, I had the goal to move out of Texas before I was 30. And I moved when I was 28, and I'm now 29, so that I accomplished that goal. 5 years ago, before, or 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, before starting Wealth Magick, that goal did not seem feasible. I mean, I guess I didn't realize how much can change in a year, like how drastically life can truly change in a year. And that really what happened last year was that it was time for me to move. Like, even at the beginning of the year last year, 2023, I moved in August, end of August of last year. And at the beginning of the year, I still didn't see how it was necessarily possible for me to move because I didn't feel like I had the financial security or the savings. I wasn't even totally sure where I wanted to move yet. I was kind of torn between two places. And looking back, life just sort of evolved in a way that assisted the whole process. I was getting more work at the time. My income was increasing. I ended up filing 2 years of taxes because I didn't realize that I hadn't filed 2021's taxes. So I got 2 tax returns last year, which helped me to move too. And I was living in, if you've watched some of my old videos, I was living in this house, which I'm actually going to get into this a little bit. This is an interesting story. I was living in a house by myself. It was a haunted house, but it was a house of my friends. And I was living there for $200 a month, which is nothing. That's unheard of. And that was only because my friend had said that I could live there for free, and I said, no, let me pay you something. I'm not going to live here for free in your house. But still, $200 a month is unheard of, and I was there for about 9 months. If I hadn't have lived there, it probably would have been harder for me to move, finally. So what I wanted to speak on really quick is this. In the beginning, which this was kind of an odd synchronicity that I realized, I guess last year sometime, was that when I started Wealth Magick in 2019, I had this childhood friend who had literally known since we were in diapers. And we were friends till we were like 6 years old. Our parents were really good friends. And then we lost touch, life went on, and literally 20 years later, we reconnect. She had moved back to Texas. We reconnect and, this was before she moved back to Texas, sorry. Her father had passed away, unfortunately. And because we were friends with the family, I went to her father's funeral in 2019. And so that was the first time reconnecting with this friend. And I was doing Wealth Magick for the first time. Now, going forward, a couple years later goes by, and I still don't talk to this friend for a few years. But then fast forward to 2022, and I reconnect with this friend. She moves back to Texas, and we meet just by chance at a concert. And, she had inherited this house, which a couple family members had passed away in, and it was a whole mess. And she was working on it, and it was paid off. And I had told her at the time, like, where I was in life, like I wanted to move out of the state, but it was mostly financially related that made it seem difficult. And that was when she offered me to live in this house of hers for $200 a month. So now, was it a coincidence that, first of all, I don't believe in coincidences. I think that the magic of Wealth Magick and the synchronicities that aligned, not saying in any way that this magic contributed to, the death of her father and the death of these family members. In no way did that take place. He was sick for a long time, and so were these family members. It was a very sad, unfortunate event. But it was the catalyst for us reconnecting. And then one thing leads to another. And then I really do credit this friend a lot for supporting me in being able to, get good financial standing in order to move out of state. And so it's just these little synchronicities that in hindsight I can look back and see, like, wow, how everything kind of strung together to get me to that point. And it aligns with when I had started doing Wealth Magick. Coincidence? I mean, I think not. So just wanted to share that story really quick. But so I moved across the country. I did that last year, and everything was sort of aligning to bring me to that point, to get me to that point. I was having new streams of income. I was working more. I basically just completely focused on work. And because I had this goal, and it was interesting because I also at the time had friends moving away, and other sort of connections like coming to an end, and it was almost like things were being tied up, like loose ends were being tied up in Texas, and timelines and narratives were finishing in Texas without me having to do anything, just because that energy was aligning me to bring my goal, to meet my goal. And I kept seeing too these just opportunities opening up. I will say before I go on that before or after, in between year 3 and year 4 review, we also did the Wealth Magick podcast, and so there were a lot more involvement in just this book as a whole, and in sharing the message of what it can do and for people, and how it's worked for myself and my my friends, my comrades, acquaintances. Let me drink some water really quick. So, moving across the country, which has been, hello everybody in the chat, I see you there. It's very tiny on my phone, which, like I said, I didn't plan to be on my phone. But yes, I will say really quick, I'm not so much discussing Nitika in this book, or in this video, because she is in Magical Cash Book. I don't know why I've never done a live stream on the Magical Cash Book, but maybe I can do that another time. But in this video, I am strictly talking about Wealth Magick, which focuses on other spirits aside from Nitika. But not to discredit Nitika at all, she is an incredible spirit to work with. I have had great success with that book, and that is all I will say on it for now. So 4 years later, of Wealth Magick, and I've moved across the country. I'm working as a nanny, which is something I never thought I would do, because I didn't really know if I liked kids or babies, to be honest, for a long time. And then when I was in Texas, I started working with babies as postpartum care provider, and that job sort of trained me to be in this nanny position now. And the reason that I like the nanny position is because, first of all, I'm not working for some big corporation. I'm working for an independent family. Second of all, it allows me time, because I'm working with a baby, nannying a baby, to write, to focus on my passions, to edit my YouTube videos at work, and before I'd been in jobs when I was bartending and when I was managing a liquor store and all this, where it was very masculine driven energy and very just like intense all the time, and very there's a lot of ego inflation, and I just got so sick and tired of all of that, and I needed to leave it behind. It was not authentic for me, and I learned a lot, and I'm grateful for those jobs. I met a lot of wonderful people, learned a lot of great information, but it was not for me. And my passion is to write, is to create, is to play music. And I have goals of being a successful author one day. One of the changes that has taken place is I have opened up more streams of income in this last year, within this 4th year. And they are not the most profitable. Like, I still need to have this one job, or the nanny job, just for now to support the rest of my endeavors. But I started making money doing readings for people, doing medium readings, doing tarot readings, doing I've been paid to do spells for people, which, if anyone is interested in that, I have information on my channel under the Buy Me a Coffee tab. I have to keep in mind my phone is on 20%, so I'll either charge it or just keep an eye on it. So if anyone's interested in that, like, I do readings for people and whatnot. And I also did publish my first book, which, unfortunately, it will remain anonymous with this one because it is an erotica book, and it is under a pen name, and I'm just not going to put it out there, so take my word for it. Which, that is not something that I ever thought that I would get into, like, to write. I never thought I would write erotica. But for those into astrology, I do have a, oh God, what is it called? A Scorpio, man, I have like 4 signs in Scorpio. What is that called whenever you have like so many signs in one? And the 12th house. Anyways, maybe it'll come to me. Whatever. So that was my first goal, and I have made a little bit of profit from this book. Not much, but I have put in more work in my current novel that I'm working on, which I've mentioned a few times on this, and I should have it finished by this year, the end of this year. But my writing has picked up a lot, and that new stream of income has slowly started to trickle in, along with the readings and the tarot readings and the magic for people. I'm still teaching piano lessons. I'm still self-employed doing that, have my own business with it, and I am not in any sort of job that I don't want to be in. Like, yes, I would prefer to be 100% self-employed, but I still have work to do. I still have more work to put into my writing or to my YouTube or to these endeavors to get me to that point, which I understand. But the other jobs that I have right now that are contributing to just me being financially stable are jobs that do not drain my energy. They are not something that I dread waking up every day for, or that, I feel like I have to put on a different face for, which is how my jobs in the past were. I felt inauthentic. They felt unaligned. Whether they started that way or became that way later on doesn't make a difference, but they got to the point where they, eventually didn't feel aligned, even if they did serve a purpose in the beginning. So, and now I also find that my manifesting abilities have gotten better, easier. Like, I just see more clearly the manifestations coming to fruition, which is pretty crazy. Because you don't really, there's not really ever a clear, a clear indication of just knowing that you've gotten better at manifesting until you see the manifestations. And so I find now that whenever I am in the need for, more money or something, that opportunity comes to me. I see the abundance around me, and whether I do magic for it or not, it appears, and I take that opportunity and I grab it. Let's see. So as far as the 4-year changes, I'll just kind of summarize and then get into a few questions. If anybody has questions, feel free to ask in the comment section right now. Otherwise, I really only have 1 question that somebody asked in the comments, 2, but I had already answered one of them. So if anybody would like to ask a question right now, please feel free. And if not, then I'll just continue on. So to conclude the changes within year 4, I gained financial stability and enough savings to move across the country, to move out of the state, which had been a long-term goal of mine. I have a Roth IRA savings, which woohoo. I'm building that savings. I actually have money saved. I have a constant stream of income, a solid, reliable stream of income. I have all my needs met. And I'm continuing, I see where I need to put in more work into other income streams to make them more profitable, like the readings and like the writing and like the YouTube and all that. So that's one thing that is really important to understand with this stuff, is that if I sit around and I don't take the opportunities, or if I don't do the work, then my results aren't going to just magically appear. Like I've made a video recently, and I get questions sometimes from people that are like, well, you do magic, why aren't you rich? And first of all, I'm not going to go into that whole video, but I've never done a ritual to just get me rich really fast. And a lot of that, is just, maybe I'm not ready for that. Maybe I need to learn to be financially literate. Because if I get $1 million overnight, I will probably spend it just as fast, I don't know how to manage that yet, or I'm learning how to be better or wiser with my money, more responsible with my money. Because responsibility is power, right? Is that what the saying is? Something like that. So, and the independence, my level of independence has increased, has just gone to the next level. I'm more of an adult, I guess, than I was 5 years ago or 4 years ago, before starting Wealth Magic. I am continuing to see how I am aligned with my goals, and the new people that are manifesting into my life are aligned with my path. And I can recognize that because we either have similar interests where we learn from each other. It's a mutual engagement. We are assisting each other in sort of our growth and evolution. So now I will talk about, really quickly, just see, boom, okay. Okay, I will talk about one of the questions that I had on the comment thing was, what difficulties have I encountered since doing Wealth Magic? Which is a great question, because there are still difficulties. Yes, my abundance mindset has shifted dramatically, but that's not to say that I don't still occasionally get financial fear. The difference is that I'm better at shifting it. I'm better at getting out of it and bringing myself back to an abundance mindset or a prosperity mindset, and realizing that fear is what keeps us stuck. That lack mindset keeps us stuck. A difficulty that I recognize too is impatience. I get impatient, just like anybody else, because I want what I want when I want it, and it's not necessarily here yet. Like I'm not where I would like to be, but I am happy where I am. And so this impatience has ultimately taught me to learn to be present and content in the present moment, and recognize that 5 years ago, I was only dreaming about moving out of state. I was only dreaming about having a car. I was only dreaming about writing a book. I was only dreaming about doing these things that I am now doing or now have. And that is something to maintain gratitude for, right? Even if I'm not where I want to be, if I'm not as financially free as I'd like to be, or I haven't, made a bunch of money from my book yet, which who's to say it's going to make a bunch of money anyways, just because I'm not there doesn't mean I'm not wealthy where I am now. It's all relative. you know, and I have to view the wealth in more ways than just monetary, right? Like I'm wealthy with the friends that I have. I'm wealthy with my family, you know, the relationships with my family. I live comfortably. You know, I don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat today. You know, I have a full fridge downstairs. You know, I pay my bills on time. Just because I'm not jet setting across the world right now doesn't mean that one day I won't, and doesn't mean that I don't go on vacation anyways right now. I'm not a YouTuber that posts every time I go on vacation. Which if I need to start doing that for people to see how wealth is manifested, then maybe I will. But you know, I don't deprive myself of these things. Like, I still enjoy traveling. I still do the things that I like to do when I can do them. But at this point in time, I am very focused on my career, on building my wealth and my sort of empire even more, on expanding. You know, I've had the idea to do Wealth Magic a third time, and I've talked about doing it possibly a third time, but I haven't done it yet. And the reason why I haven't done it yet, which maybe I will, is because it would have more momentum if I do it a third time after I've written my first novel, after, you know, I've put more work into my YouTube, and after I've just done more work on these creative things and building the income streams already, then the magic has more to work off of than just in the same place where I was. You know, I can't just do the magic again and expect the results to happen. I have to work at it and work with it. And then it will come. Or it will, you know, it will come with as the magic evolves. So maybe after I do finish my novel, I will, you know, do Wealth Magic again. Or when I reach that next level in my career, when it makes more sense. Because I can't just rely on the magic to do everything while I sit back and wait for it to happen. Okay, I got kind of off topic from the whole difficulties that I've encountered there, but back to the question. So one difficulty that was quite difficult at the time in 2022, which I didn't talk about much because I just don't talk about all my personal things on YouTube, is that I was scammed a lot in 2022, and unfortunately I fell for most of these scams. I won't get into the whole story on there. Some of it is honestly embarrassing to admit because it was just me being stupid, trusting the wrong people, and not being guarded with my money. You know, taking advantage of the money that I had and giving it to the wrong people. So, I mean, I lost a lot. I probably lost a few $1,000s. Not a few, maybe like two or less than two. And it took me a while to get out of that hole. It took me a while to rebuild my finances. It took me a while to you know, get my bank account back from being negative and to just, and it took me a lot to like kind of rebuild my pride too, because I was like, wow, I can't really believe that I did this. But there is always a lesson to be learned, right? And now I will never fucking be scammed again. Because unless it's a mastermind, but no, I won't even ever be scammed again because I know what to look for. I know who to not trust with my money, which is basically anybody. And I know how to be guarded and appreciate the value of the money that I've worked hard to get. And we live in a day and age now where scamming is quite common. You know, I mean, all of these all of these scams began on Instagram, as people trying to like sell something or something, and I was just in a state where I fell for it a couple of times. So be careful out there, because not everyone has good intentions. If anyone's asking you to send them money or for any reason, don't do it. I will say, I will say that at one point I was in sort of a magic war, where I was being attacked psychically. And I believe that that was helpful um, in in just getting me to do what that person wanted me to do. You know, basically, that sounds kind of bad, but you know, in just not being so discerning. But all was okay. Like I wasn't hurt. You know, I lost some money, but money comes and goes, and I've learned now lessons the hard way to never do that again. So that is what I would say was my most difficult encounter. Um, if the question that Frater asked about what difficulties have I encountered had specifically to do with what did I encounter while doing Wealth Magic, which I don't think it did, but just in case, because I know a lot of people get concerned when they hear that disruptions might take place. All the disruptions are necessary in the unfolding of events and in the magic taking place. So there's not really anything that I can speak on. I think I have spoken on a scam that happened possibly after the first time of doing Wealth Magic, and I can't remember exactly what the person asked, but it was a difficulty during, it was a disruption during like ritual to the first time doing it, or whichever ritual has the angels of omnipotence. And ultimately back then it was a way smaller scam, but it was like the same thing. You know, I learned the lesson. I learned a great valuable lesson after that. Which really after the second time I got scammed. But you know, the lessons come in waves. And after the scams of 2022, never again. And so now I'm on this journey, I'm on this path of becoming financially literate, learning how to handle money, you know, and also doing the work to increase my income and get myself to the point where I would like to be, but at the same time, pausing to stop and smell the roses, so to speak, and appreciating where I am now. And not just longing to be somewhere else or longing to be in a different place, because I'm not there yet, but I know it exists out there in some timeline already. And that is what I'm working at aligning myself with right now, is aligning with the timeline of where I want to be. You know, it's okay to have goals, but not expectations. And the two are different, right? Because the goal is the outcome, the final result, but the expectations are usually in how it's going to get there. And whatever happens is usually nothing how we will expect anyways. And I can say that from experience, as can probably most people. And that's not to say that we won't get to our goal, but it may just happen in a way that's completely unexpected. Better than we could expect. And just check my phone battery there. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask them now. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to wrap up pretty soon. I hope that I have answered most of the questions in how things have evolved. I wish maybe somewhere I'll post like pictures of just like life in before starting Wealth Magic and life now, because it's just so different. Like, I mean, I have a new sense or this evolved sense of like confidence in myself, and not to be arrogant, you know, but to trust through trial and error, you know, what I know and what's worked for me. You know, I am way more financially stable than I ever was back then. I'm not in jobs that I don't like anymore. And you know, and I'm still going. So I will say one more time that this is 4 years after the first round of me doing Wealth Magic, 2 years after the second round of me doing Wealth Magic. And then last year in March of 2023, I did the Ritual 7 to Clowneck just by itself, which I believe honestly assisted with everything sort of falling into place for me to help me to move, to reach my goal to move out of state. So that being said, I think that these results are still manifesting, but I'm in the process of doing the work to help them manifest, of opening these doors that will allow this magic to flow and allow the energy to move, you know, to wherever I would like it to go and to what's aligned with my highest, wealthiest being. Drink some water really quick. So I appreciate everyone so much who is here right now, who is dropped in even briefly or stuck through it the whole time. Thank you so much. I will link the videos to the year 1, year 2, year 3 experiences if anyone is curious, just to see the evolution through those videos. And I will just say, oh, and if you're doing Wealth Magic, or if you've ever done it or just curious, the Wealth Magic podcast is a great resource, and I know has helped a lot of people in just their own journey of Wealth Magic, because it is a long journey. It is. But excuse me, but what's that saying? Like, the good things take time, or the good, I don't know, something like that. It is a long journey, and it is hard, but there is a community out there, the Facebook group, and just others on YouTube, you know, that watch these videos that are all in, you know, that are doing the same thing. And it's not anything that's going to, like, really cause damage or harm. You know, like I said, any disruptions will be met with a better result in the end. They're just clearing the way for the next level of wealth to enter. So thank you guys so much, and if you've stuck with me so far in this whole journey, I cannot say enough how much I appreciate all of you. It's really cool to be able to sit here and share my experience, and hope that it helps people, you know, along their own journey, and to work with this, and to not be afraid of magic or anything, and to just see how you can transform your life with this book. And to recognize too the inner alchemy that takes place along with the external results, because it happens from the inside out, right? The abundance mindsets and the breaking down of everything, old belief systems, is what also helps the magic to manifest on the outside. It doesn't start out here and then change in here. It's one and then the other, which this book is also very good about stating, which is why they have a good foundation with the daily practice and everything. And the daily practice is something that I still practice. I mean, these tools in here, aside from like the magic rituals, you know, are something that I will carry with me for life. So I'll report back, you know, in maybe a few years. Well, not a few years, no, maybe next year again, for another just to see how things have evolved. You know, I don't know how much of the results are manifesting from the first time doing it, but I have, like I said, done it a second time and done Clowneck's ritual, so that momentum is still there, that energy is still there, and I'm currently riding the wave of that energy and working on it, working with it to get it into the next level. So thank you guys again so much for being here. I hope everyone is staying safe and enjoying doing magic. If you have any questions afterwards, if you want to ask them in the comments, feel free. I'll answer them in the comments and stuff. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your just being you. And until next time, guys, peace.